Hello, Heather. It's Sunday. It's Super Bowl Sunday, to be exact. And the Seattle Seahawks just won the Super Bowl in a very, very lopsided game. I watched the first half, but then it was very obvious where it was going. I think the final score was something like 43-8, which is very sad for Denver, but I'm very happy for Seattle, which is one of my top 5 favorite cities in the whole world. So good for Seattle. And that is the end of my football commentary, probably for the year. I can watch about half the Super Bowl, and that's pretty much it for me for football for the year. So if you're tuning in to hear me talk about football, probably not going to happen. The topic you started talking about in your video yesterday is very interesting to me. There's actually a couple of different issues going on that are all kind of related to what we think of as the ideal life cycle of a television show. Because like everything else, a television show probably has a life cycle, and the general rule in American television is that the TV shows probably go on a little longer than they should. Just because of the way TV shows are financed and marketed, it's very difficult to do a show of fewer than 100 episodes and make your money back and make everybody happy. So shows have to keep going as long as anyone's willing to watch. So when I commented about Firefly on your video, what I was talking about is, although it's sad that we didn't get to see Firefly mature and develop, and I love those characters, we also didn't get to see it get into kind of a slump and rehash places where it had been and have a lot of unnecessary romantic pairings and wedding after wedding after wedding and invisible aliens and anything else. It just got to have a strong storyline, a strong character arc. It got a movie to finish things out, so that was probably good. But on the whole, I think Firefly was canceled too soon. Firefly could have gone, I think, 2 or 3 more seasons and been very strong. And one of the things you mentioned that I found interesting was talking about TV shows that go on for a while and then kind of pick back up and do interesting things. Probably my favorite television show of the last 20 years is another Joss Whedon show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is a brilliant show, which I think definitely started having some problems after season 5. It changed networks, it changed a lot of focus, and went in some strange directions, and honestly told some weaker stories in the last couple of seasons. So on the one hand, you could say it went on too long. On the other hand, sometimes shows have to go for a while to kind of get to a certain level of being able to reference their own history and their own characters and do really interesting things. So you got, in the later seasons of Buffy, you got the Buffy musical, which is, I think, one of the great episodes of television ever, and something that Chris and I watch over and over again, and we played at our wedding. It's just a great show, and you couldn't have done that in the 3rd season. There's no way you can, because that wasn't just an episode with songs added into it. It was an episode that played off of years and years of storylines and characters and inside things that only fans would notice, and that's very satisfying. It's a kind of satisfaction you can only get with a show that's gone on for a while and developed that kind of texture. Then there's a whole other issue kind of related to this life cycle issue, which is the issue of revivals, and that's something we're seeing more and more as media becomes more fragmented. You're seeing TV shows that were canceled that are now back on different networks or with different teams or even in different media. And on the whole, I think that's a good thing. Even if the specific extra episodes aren't that great, as in, for example, Arrested Development, I don't think that the Netflix season was all that good. I still much prefer the original show. I support the idea of taking shows like that and giving them new life and taking new looks at them. Obviously, the premier example in current memory is Doctor Who, which was off the air for a long, long time, and then came roaring back with Russell Davies and now Stephen Moffat, and has become hugely popular, and I think creatively very successful. Another good example of a show that was revived is Futurama, which we love, and it just went off the air for the final time. But it was on Fox for a while, got canceled a bit too soon, and then got brought back on Comedy Central for another, I think, 4 or 5 seasons. And you know, with animation, there's a lot more leeway to play around, and nobody really gets older, and nobody has to change that much. But you know, Futurama did some of its best work after that revival, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. It kind of petered out toward the end, to be honest, but I was really glad we got that extra time with those characters. And on the whole, I'll always be glad to have some extra time with characters I like as long as they're doing something interesting and somewhat challenging and not just recycling characters that people have grown fond of. So I guess as we do these videos, we probably need to kind of point toward the next video as we wrap up. So since our theme this week is making things, I know that you make scrapbooks. I'm curious whether you make other things and how you express your creativity in those ways. I myself am very bad at making things, and I'm still trying to sort of think about how to approach that topic, since I'm all thumbs when it comes to making physical objects. But I would love to hear about the kinds of things that you make. Bye for now.